In 1835, a British physician named J.C. Pritchard noticed a baffling pattern in his clinic. He was treating patients whose logic was perfectly sound, yet their behavior was catastrophic. They lied, manipulated, and destroyed the lives of the people closest to them without a shred of remorse. Pritchard called this phenomenon moral insanity, a condition where the intellect was entirely intact, but the moral compass was utterly perverted. Over the next century, that nebulous label became highly specific. Today, the American Psychiatric Association currently classifies these enduring, destructive behaviors into Cluster B personality disorders, and specifically narcissistic personality disorder. This creates a chilling paradox for modern psychiatry. People with severe pathological narcissism aren't hallucinating, they aren't detached from reality. They know the difference between right and wrong, and they know exactly what they are doing. Yet, they operate with an absolute void of emotional empathy for the people they hurt. The debate over how to handle this condition is intensely polarized. On one side, the psychiatric establishment views narcissistic personality disorder as a tragic, neurobiological sickness rooted in trauma. On the other side, victims and moral philosophers look at the deliberate exploitation and the calculated gaslighting, and they call it something else entirely: secular human evil. This forces us to ask an uncomfortable question. By treating this extreme behavior purely as a medical condition, are we giving a free pass to deliberate cruelty? Or, by calling it evil, are we unfairly demonizing a severe mental illness? The strongest argument for the sick classification comes directly from childhood development. Severe pathological narcissism almost always traces back to profound adverse childhood experiences. When a child faces extreme neglect, severe verbal abuse, or erratic parenting, their psyche fractures. To survive the agonizing reality of feeling worthless and unloved, the child constructs a rigid, impenetrable false self, a grandiose mask used as a psychological shield against a hostile home environment. To understand why that protective mask prevents them from caring about others later in life, look at this functional model of a healthy human brain. Compassion relies on two distinct neural systems taking turns. You have the default mode network, which handles internal daydreaming and self-focus, and the salience network, which detects emotional cues in the external world. The bridge between those two systems is a region called the right anterior insula. Think of it as a biological switch. When you see someone crying, this insula lights up, actively suppressing your self-focused daydreaming so your brain can process the other person's pain. But look at these fMRI brain scans. Patients with narcissistic personality disorder consistently display severe structural abnormalities and significantly decreased gray matter volume right in the anterior insula. Because of this physical damage, the biological switch is broken. When a narcissist is confronted with their partner's emotional distress, their brain literally fails to shift gears. They remain securely locked in their own self-referential processing, mechanically unable to share the affective state of the person standing right in front of them. The empathy deficit is hardwired into the cerebral cortex. Because the narcissist suffers from a verifiable structural blindness to the emotions of others, their lack of compassion is heavily dictated by their biology. From a purely clinical perspective, they are sick. But an explanation is not an excuse. Moral philosophers point out that a malfunctioning anterior insula does not erase a person's cognitive awareness of their own actions. Narcissists lack effective empathy, the ability to physically feel your pain, but they retain perfect cognitive empathy. They have the intellectual capacity to understand exactly what you are feeling. The problem is, they routinely weaponize that intellectual understanding to lie, manipulate, and extract what they want from you. In 1983, psychiatrist M. Scott Peck proposed that this precise behavior is the core of human evil. He defined it as militant ignorance. According to Peck, the narcissist engages in an absolute aggressive refusal to submit to self-examination or acknowledge their own flaws, constantly deceiving themselves to maintain a flawless facade. Standard psychiatric illnesses are tragedies where the primary suffering is endured by the patient. Narcissism operates entirely in reverse. The narcissist often flourishes professionally and financially, specifically by projecting their own internal self-loathing outward and systematically scapegoating the innocent people around them. The debate over evil becomes impossible to ignore when we look at the extreme end of the spectrum, malignant narcissism. Here, the incidental harm caused by self-absorption morphs into calculated, targeted destruction. Malignant narcissists exhibit ego-sentient sadism. Unlike a standard narcissist who hurts you out of negligence, the malignant narcissist derives active, visceral pleasure from inflicting pain, humiliation, and terror. They don't feel guilty about their cruelty. They view it as a thrilling testament to their own superiority. This visualization breaks down the dark triad, where these highly toxic traits frequently overlap. When you combine the grandiosity of narcissism with the strategic exploitation of Machiavellianism and the absolute remorselessness of psychopathy, you get an individual who views human beings entirely as objects to be used and discarded. When an adult with fully intact cognitive awareness makes a consistent, daily choice to orchestrate the ruin of others for personal gain or sadistic pleasure, they meet every criteria for the secular philosophical definition of evil. We are left with a collision of truths. Pathological narcissism is a moral medical hybrid. It is a genuine physiological illness forged in trauma, but its primary symptom is moral injury inflicted upon the innocent. Integrating the word evil into the official psychiatric lexicon carries severe bioethical risks. Stamping patients with a morally loaded label heavily stigmatizes mental health care. It leads to increased societal anger and frequently results in patients being completely excluded from therapeutic programs because they are deemed naturally bad and untreatable. Surprisingly, experts in abuse recovery, like Dr. Ramani Durvasula, warn victims against using the word evil. The concept of pure evil is absolute. When a victim inevitably remembers the narcissist's charming moments or their genuine moments of depression, that monolithic label creates massive cognitive dissonance. It causes survivors to question their reality and keeps them trapped in guilt and toxic trauma bonds. Modern trauma-informed recovery abandons philosophical debates in favor of strict pragmatism. Survivors don't need to decide if their partner's soul is corrupted. They only need to focus on observable behaviors. Does this person repeatedly ignore boundaries? Do they constantly blame others? Do they lie to maintain control? Victims must recognize the abuser for what they are, a rigid, maladaptive personality structure. A narcissist is incapable of change, regardless of how much love, patience, or empathy you pour into them. Providing endless compassion to a broken biological switch simply results in further exploitation. The dichotomy of sickness and evil ultimately resolves into a practical strategy. We must understand the narcissist's biological sickness to depersonalize their behavior, to realize the abuse was never about us, but about their own broken defenses. But we must acknowledge the functional, undeniable evil of their actions to implement the impenetrable boundaries required to walk away, heal, and protect the innocent.